The last thing, and I've seen this take off a little bit more recently, so again, this wasn't an Ogilvy thing, but lately, is going back and doing win-loss analysis. So especially in B2B journeys and sales journeys where you have a partner or a seller, win-loss analysis, so it's not about going into your Salesforce system and analyzing the reasons for a deal closing or not closing. You don't want to do that because a lot of times people put in the wrong data. They just, choose a selection and that's not correct. You actually want to go externally for win-loss because you're going to get better data if you go externally than if you try to, talk to your sellers. Your sellers are never going to want to say, anything negative, right? So if you go externally and you do win-loss, what you will learn is completely illuminating. You will really learn about what customers are thinking, why they're making certain decisions. And when I did win-loss a couple of years ago, what I learned was, again, decisions were being made completely outside of the buying journey that I was aware of. They were being made in other parts of the organization by other people, and it actually caused us to have to change our strategy so that we were focused on other personas in addition to the ones we already had. So
Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to another exciting episode of MetricMinds. This time we unravel the dynamic fusion of data, storytelling, and growth in the realm of digital marketing. I'm your host, Anand, and today we have a remarkable guest with us. Priya is a CMO and VP Solutions at Product Marketing and has previously been the CMO at Neuroblade, a data analytics startup. She had also been CMO for IBM server divisions. She began her career as a developer and spent many years in the ad agency world in digital and B2B marketing at Ogilvey and Burnett. In her spare time, she writes and is the author of a very exciting thriller mystery indie novel, Finding Warrior Pose. Today, we will take a journey into nexus of data, storytelling, and growth in the digital marketing and drawing from Priya's wealth of experience and expertise. So without further ado, let's dive into this enlightening conversation with Priya. Welcome to the show, Priya.
Thank you so much, Anand. It's great to be here. I'm excited to have this conversation this morning.
Great. We look forward to it too as well, Priya. Priya, to start with, your career has been quite diverse, ranging from a developer to your current role as a CMO. Could you please help us understand the significance of storytelling in digital marketing and how it plays a vital role, not only in captivating the audience, but also in crafting a strong brand identity in the digital realm?
I mean, yeah, the brand is actually the key to all of this, right? And it's funny because I think in today's world, like all marketing is digital marketing, right? There is no pure brand marketing anymore. And when I was at Ogilvy and some of these places, there was this concept of, these big TV advertisements and things like that. But the reality is that today, it's all digital. And it really does come down to the brand. The brand is what gets people excited about a company, and it creates value that is intangible, that is beyond what any specific campaign, specific demand generation tactic can really do. And I think that even especially because digital marketing digital can be a very transactional type of medium. If you think about search, you're looking for something specific, you want to get something done. If you think about social media and things like that, it can be very transactional. So without a strong brand and without the ability to tell a story, you're really not standing out at all. And I think that's the core of what it has been, always has been, will be in the future. And people, the other bit of it too is, and I think this has been happening for a while now, but increasingly, it's not just about the brand telling their story and putting out their own content. It's about other people telling the story for the brand. And we saw this migration towards influencer marketing, celebrity marketing, review sites in the B2B world, influencers being the ones telling your story or recommending your product. And I would guess if you look into the future in the next 5 years, that it's going to jump again from being about influencers and celebrities and reviewers to networks of community, like-minded people that that you care about, that are recommending the product and give you ideas and influence. So it'll be social media groups of people who are interested in, reading a certain type of book, or social media communities for CIOs who in a particular industry. These are going to be the people that are telling your story and recommending your product, right? And getting people excited. So how you craft a message and how you tell a story that can carry through all these different people, it's almost like a game of telephone,
Right.
It's going to have to carry through all these people to get to somebody who's interested in your product. So it is, to me, storytelling is the number one thing marketers have to do. It has never changed. The tactics we use change, whether it's these days, it's all about Gen AI and predictive analytics. I'm sure we're going to talk about that in a minute. 5 years ago, it was all about social media and influencers. 5 years before that, it was all about growth marketing, but that storytelling, the need for storytelling never goes away. So it's I don't know, it's a huge part of a brand marketer's job. And I would say if we're not focused on the storytelling, there's a concern, there's a problem. Even if you think your metrics are good, eventually somebody else is going to top you because you have to be able to tell that story.
Right. I love the fact when you touched upon in terms of it's not only you who's telling the story, but others are telling your story. So it's very important to be able to possibly put the word out and not only, manage what you are saying, but also manage in terms of what are other people, other communities, other partners, other patrons that are talking about you. Really great insight there, Priya. Priya, I before we move ahead, I would love to touch upon your experience. I would really love to tap into your experience at Ogilvey, where you had the chance to collaborate not with one single brand, but with a wide range of brands. I would love to know how you and your team mastered the craft of data-driven storytelling in digital marketing during those collaborations, especially when you're part of a partner and you're simultaneously working with multiple brands.
Definitely. I mean, so first of all, I'll just give my little plug for Ogilvey. It's an amazing place. And it's the home of the original Mad Men, right?
Right.
David Ogilvey. And it was an amazing jumpstart for my own career and certainly my own career in marketing. And yeah, agency life is, you walk in and you may be on a client or an account. And I had a couple of key accounts there in B2B and B2C. But you're also responding to pitches, you're responding to RFPs, and every day brings something new. I actually worked on the consulting side, so I was working with a number of our agency clients, everybody from Carhartt to Kimberly-Clark to UPS, IBM, Samsung were just a few that I worked with while I was there. So it was a very wide mix of clients. And I would say that one of the things when it comes to agency life, which I loved about Ogilvy, is that we were very data-driven. And the principles that Ogilvy had was that we wanted to be the most creative agency, but also the most effective agency.
Amazing.
So it was this idea of having two pillars. You had creativity and effectiveness. You couldn't have one without the other. And the effectiveness, of course, was all the digital and direct marketing. And then the creativity, of course, was the exciting, interesting ideas that stick, and those really cool insights. So how we got to those insights, though, is I would say we had, this is not an exhaustive list, but I would say we had like 5 types of key market research that we would do. And I would say the first is just the core segmentation, understanding who are your customers, how they segment out, And the art of segmentation is actually the art of defining how you're going to create the segments. In the consumer world, your segmentation is very interesting. It could be based on demographics, types of people, attitudes. On the B2B side, the segmentation tends to be a little bit more straightforward. It's more about, types of personas, size of company, amount of spend, right? But the segmentation piece helps people to understand and start to target what you want to say to whom. And I'll give you an example. There was a brand I worked with that had a very specific product that catered to, it solved different problems for different people. It solved a certain problem for one segment of people that was only focused on clothing for workwear and being on job sites and construction, but it also solved problems for other people that was more about fashion. So that's an example of the same the same shirt is solving a totally different problem. And if you didn't understand the segment and the segmentation of how people thought about the solution, you wouldn't be able to necessarily craft the proper marketing.
Amazing.
Right? You wouldn't want to talk about fashion to a construction worker. You wouldn't want to talk about construction working to somebody interested in fashion. The second type of research we did a lot of is, and this was something that I think was kind of unique to Ogilvey, and I encourage people to try to do this today, is a lot of times we have these ideas of customer journeys. And you could call it a buying journey. You could call it a customer lifecycle journey. The idea is you look at the steps that a customer takes in their life cycle, from becoming aware of the product all the way through deciding to purchase and then continue to use the product and then forward on. And lots of discussions about the journey, how it's no longer linear and all these things. But the point is that there are these steps. And one of the coolest pieces of research I did was I actually took a bunch of focus groups and a bunch of market research, and we overlaid that research with the journey. So we looked at how the customers were making decisions on that journey, and we actually said, these are the testimonials they're saying at each step of the way. And that was very powerful for the CMOs that I was working for at the time, because it took a lot of vague research that was hard to process and actually put it into the specific steps. And that's when we learned, for example, working, I think this was with maybe Samsung, but that's when we learned, for example, we were working with a division that was working with retailers and putting up digital signage. And we learned that retailers made decisions about digital signage very differently based on the kind of experience they were trying to create for their customers. So a high-end restaurant that was interested in Italian dining and fine dining didn't want a electronic sign in their restaurant, but maybe a yogurt shop did. And so these kinds of things got layered onto the buying journey, and decisions were made about how the pitch was given and how we would convert people at each step. So very, very powerful tool. And the customer journey approach, you can use it pretty much anywhere, but I found it's not easy to do, but it's actually very powerful when you can put it together that way. So the third type of research is competitive intelligence. And I actually started a practice at Ogilvey at the time on competitive intelligence. And I would say that CI is both a blessing and a curse, right? We live in a world where we can get competitive info on anything, like how a company is doing, what they're thinking. The value of competitive intelligence is if you really get inside your competitor's head, you want to understand how they're making a business strategy, how they're making a go-to-market strategy, and then you look at their actions. If you understand what is motivating their decisions, you can pretty much predict it every time. But if you're just looking at competitive in terms of, oh, they said this, we should say this, you're missing all of the motivations and priorities of their business. So I would encourage people, a lot of times they say, oh, I did competitive. And what that means is they went and they looked at their competitor's site and they compared it to their site. And they were like, oh, they have this and we have this. And therefore we should have more case studies because they have different case studies or whatnot. But it's actually about understanding how your competitor thinks. So for example, this is not an Ogilvy example, but I had at one point in my career, I had a competitor that was very focused on a particular aspect of DevOps in the IT software world. And I knew that that company had completely prioritized DevOps as the number one focus of their company. So it wasn't surprising that that was the way that they were going to market. And when we tried to compete, we had to understand that that was their number one priority, whereas ours wasn't, it was like the number 5 for us. So CI is huge because at the end of the day, your customer is making choices and you have to know how to compete with those choices. The fourth type of analysis that I highly recommend people do is something around, and I don't have the exact term for it, but it's essentially the idea of you want to understand customers' willingness to pay. And so a lot of times what'll happen is people will do market research and they'll basically say, oh, 30% of customers are interested in buying this solution. Great. But what you actually want to know in that survey is how much are they willing to pay? Number one, and number two, force rank. If they have $100 budget, how much of it are they going to spend on your product? So you want to understand those willingness to pay share of wallet as almost as important, because those are the buying signals versus somebody, just saying, oh yeah, I might be interested in your product. The last thing, and I've seen this take off a little bit more recently, so again, this wasn't an Ogilvey thing, but lately, is going back and doing win-loss analysis. So especially in B2B journeys and sales journeys where you have a partner or a seller, win-loss analysis, so it's not about going into your Salesforce system and analyzing the reasons for a deal closing or not closing. You don't want to do that because a lot of times people put in the wrong data. They just, choose a selection and that's not correct. You actually want to go externally for win-loss because you're going to get better data if you go externally than if you try to, talk to your sellers. Your sellers are never going to want to say, anything negative, right? So if you go externally and you do win-loss, what you will learn is completely illuminating. You will really learn about what customers are thinking, why they're making certain decisions. And when I did win-loss a couple of years ago, what I learned was, again, decisions were being made completely outside of the buying journey that I was aware of. They were being made in other parts of the organization by other people. And it actually caused us to have to change our strategy so that we were focused on other personas in addition to the ones we already had. So win-loss is very powerful. But again, I often hear people like, oh yes, I went to my Salesforce system and I did an analysis of all the things that were the reasons for not buying, and therefore I know it. It's like, no, it's really about that going outside and getting that data. So that's just a sample of the kind of data you can use to get proper decisions made and good storytelling done. And the reason these things all matter to storytelling is because it's all about precision, and it's all about having the right insights. And you cannot do that if you're just using anecdotes and the market research, the sort of market segment of one, which is your own personal beliefs.
That's amazing. To be frank, this can really be a very good big part of a masterclass on how to go about and build your digital brand strategy. Thanks for sharing it in detail, Priya. To sum it up for our listeners, it's audience, understand your audience, customer journey, competitive analysis, competitive intelligence, CI. Fourth one is
like willingness to pay.
Sorry. And fifth one is win-loss analysis. Amazing, Priya. Thanks for taking us through that masterclass, and I believe that was really, really informative, not only for me but also to our listeners. Thanks for those valuable insights, Priya. Priya, your wealth of experience and insights into data-driven storytelling is incredibly valuable. So, in our next segment, we have something special for our listeners. We'll be conducting a mini workshop where you can guide us through a practical example of using market research to craft a data-driven digital marketing narrative. For this, we would be taking the case of Quantacus itself. It's in a very, very initial stage, and we can definitely take one or few pointers from you to how to go ahead and craft a journey. But not only that, we would love to have our listeners witness how exactly leaders, especially leaders like you, go about, and what's the thought process? What are the questions you ask while crafting a compelling story, as well as matching it with the data, creating a perfect fusion of tech plus creative storytelling, bringing together to uh, to make a winning solution. So, uh, how should we start? Should tell him about
Yeah.
Quantacus? Yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, this should be really fun. I don't know if I've ever done a podcast. This almost feels like a little bit of a reality show. So yeah, I think let's start in terms of positioning. Let's start by just you're the founder, the mastermind behind Quantacus. So why don't you start by just telling me a little bit about, how you define Quantacus? I'm sure you've had to give your pitch a few times.
Sure. So Quantacus is an AI intelligence co-pilot, specially built for digital growth teams. That includes product, marketing, as well as tech. Uh, the problem which we are trying to solve is bringing more speed, scale, and quality to the data intelligence, which growth leaders have access to. Uh, Based on our research, what we have found out is that almost 73% of the data which gets captured never gets analyzed. And one of the major obstacles which organizations and especially growth teams face is hiring and managing data sciences talent as well as data analytics talent. Just to quote a few numbers from the last McKinsey report, they are close to 190K open positions which remains unfilled in data sciences, and almost 1.5 million in data analytics manager and analyst roles. So that itself shows that just because companies are not able to have a good access, or it's very very difficult for them to build data sciences or data analytics teams, they are losing they're losing with respect to the kind of insights which they have. Of course, with new Gen AI, what we are bringing to the table is a virtual analyst, which would be practically be able to replace a data scientist, or take or enable the current data scientist within the growth team to be able to drive data intelligence a lot faster and better for the growth teams.
Perfect. Okay. I think this is a really good start. So good to begin. So, all right. So let's talk about this. So the first thing I like to always ask folks and understand is, what is the marketing problem you're trying to solve, right? Are you trying to create so is this an existing need that people understand, or is this a new need that people need to become aware of, right? That's the first question I'd like to think about is how new is this problem for people? Will they immediately say, yes, I have this problem and I am aware of it, or I didn't realize I had that problem, but yes, this could be interesting. So
I would say the former. It's a very very realized need. It's a need which CMO CGOs, not only to not only when they're talking to us, but outside in the media, and when they are writing or when they are sharing their thoughts, they also talk about it. During the last 3 months, we had interactions with almost 70 CMOs and CGOs and digital marketers and growth leaders, Priya. Close to 80 to 90% of them mentioned this as one of the primary challenge. This also comes from and based on our marketing research, almost 94% of the digital marketers, they believe data analytics and data sciences is now a very very integral part or integral pillar of the digital growth. And given the focus on ROI, it needs to get better and much much more precise. Their operations, their strategy needs to be a lot more precise, uh, and hence they believe that data analytics and data sciences would be the key.
Got it. Thank you. And so the second kind of related question to this is then how are they solving, if this is a big problem for them, how are they solving it today?
So there are two paths. There are two path solutions which they are deploying right now. The big companies, the enterprise companies, which has very large setups, they of course have captive units, which captive unit with respect to establishing functions like data analytics, data sciences, dedicated functions which are helping companies, the growth functions there. The second one is the companies who are not able to hire, or they don't really have time and focus to build a whole data analytics and data science teams. They are currently fulfilling these needs with ad platform reports or some basic automation on the reports. There's a whole mid layer where digital marketers themselves are acting as data analysis and data scientists, and some of them are doing a pretty good job, to be frank. A few of them whom we have talked to, but they are somewhere in the middle. So it's part people, part tech platform role.
Would it be fair to say that it's happening, but it's like, based on what you're saying, you're telling me essentially people are solving the problem, but it's not a natural thing to solve. Like it's happening with a lot of elbow grease and work and, grind and grit. It's not a natural, easy thing for them to fix.
I would say that, Priya.
Got it. Okay, so I actually have a third part of this question. And the third part of the question is, if they were able to solve it in a more efficient way, what would be the value to them of this potential change?
To put it in terms of numbers, last year itself, globally companies have lost close to $620 billion to data quality and poor data analytics and data sciences issues or shortcomings, either in lost opportunities, Priya, or the cost of delayed decision or unoptimized campaigns. So in the real numbers, that is the sense. Based on my personal experience and my interaction with a lot of CMOs, for many products, especially for many founders, it's not the product; it's their ability to take that particular product to the market is where they win and lose. So for a lot of teams, and not only the early age startups, but even the startups which are in the growth stage, this becomes an existential crisis if they happen to not get the right talent. So from an overall perspective, this the price of not solving this particular problem, it's more than just the money part. It's also the speed and the scale of the digital growth maturity which you are able to attain within the company.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, so this is all good. So you have a lot to work with here. You have a known problem, which is always easier to market to in many ways. You have a problem that is not being solved well or naturally, having to hire data analysts and data scientists and or try to make a marketer into a data analyst or data scientist. And you have a problem that has a potentially high value in the sense that the smaller companies, they essentially won't be able to scale as quickly and grow as quickly, which could affect everything from their growth trajectory, their funding trajectory, everything under the sun for them. And for these larger companies, it's going to significantly affect their competitiveness and ability to return profit back to their shareholders and other stakeholders. So you have a very interesting problem here, which is great. So the second part that I like to think about now is who are the key personas and customers? So you've mentioned some different types of companies and accounts. It sounds like this is mostly a B2B play, but what sorts of personas are you talking to? And in particular, I'm curious about the data science piece and how close they are to the marketing organizations that you're talking with, your CMOs that you're talking with.
Right. Based on our research, we are looking at two types of ICPs. One is one are the growth stage ICPs, usually B2C companies, tech founders companies, which has gone through possibly post their PMF, Series B, Series D, Series C, Series B, C, D stage companies. The primary reason of choosing this particular ICP is because this is when they're going for a hyper growth scale stage, and that is when they start adding more channels, more mediums, more touch points to their particular journey. This is also when companies move from their early adopter stage to the stage where now they have to also build consideration along with and awareness and consideration along with just the purchase journey. So in here the data play and the way different data comes together, as well as going up with your last part, creating audiences, creating those touch points, understanding those touch points, doing a win-loss analysis, CI analysis, as well as ability to pay, right? The pricing decisions, right? Now that your audience are changing, all these answers becomes very, very critical. And many a times these are the specific problems which these companies face. They are very core to their current stage goals. The second set of companies are the enterprise level companies. They are the big, large companies. They usually already have data science and data analytics functions. The problem of these companies are usually the speed and the quality of analysis, majorly because of the collaboration issues, as well as usual hiring and managing talent issues. Just to give you a perspective, average data scientist tenure in a company is 2.6 years. Relatively, it's very low because considering it takes usually 2 to 3 months for data scientists to become productive, because they have to understand the whole data context, they have to understand the current setup, they have to also understand the brand context and the customer context, right? So if you think about it, these are the enterprise level companies which can really benefit from Quantacus by not only filling up the gaps, but enabling their data scientists to mature faster and bring better solution faster to digital growth teams.
Got it. Okay, so we're not going to have time to dig too far into this piece, but I will just leave you with a thought on this, which is it sounds like from what you're telling me that you have first of all, you actually didn't tell me a persona, you told me accounts. So that you have some homework. That's okay. You have homework, because it sounds to me like your larger accounts, your larger enterprises have a slightly different problem, right? First of all, you may be talking to a chief data officer, chief analytics officer, or data scientist team. So you may be actually talking to a different persona there, and their needs may be slightly different, right? They don't need to be sold on doing analytics. It's more about being sold on improving their efficiency, having reducing some of their people needs, making their people more efficient, and that might be the story there. I don't know. And then on the startup side, that definitely seems like a slightly different market, because here you're having to sell into a much more chaotic, fast growth environment. And here you'll have to quickly explain why this particular solution is better than or an alternative to just using the existing tools they already have, right? Sort of like building it up. So maybe there's a couple different value props here, but certainly worth exploring. And then the last piece, and I don't purport that we're going to get to the answers today, but I think the last piece to think about is go back to the value prop you're offering and really think about how you're going to make this. Back to the beginning of our conversation, it's not just going to be you telling your story. You're going to have other people telling your story. So how are you going to get it to be something pithy, 4 or 5 words, that just communicates, maybe 2 words, 4 words, 5 words, that's just going to communicate exactly what you do, right? So that's something to think about, right? You don't have to answer that right now.
I understand.
But whether it's, the co-pilot for data analytics or marketing data analytics or whatnot, think about that, because that's going to be the way to position the value add, right? And there's a couple schools of thought here. There's a school of thought that says, name the category or name the type of product that you have. And that tends to be the winner because it makes it clear what exactly you do. The other sort of school of thought is you focus more on the value prop that you're offering to the customer. So in that case, you're telling less about what you're doing, but you're saying more about, this is why you're going to get a benefit from me.
Right.
So anyway, I don't have to answer that question today, and I won't, but I'll leave it to your listeners. If they have ideas based on our conversation, you should definitely hit Anand and his team up and give them some ideas. But yeah, think about what are those 4 or 5 words that you can use that will stick in people's minds.
I understand, Priya. This has been amazing, and I sincerely believe for so many listeners, this particular conversation, answering these particular set of questions this way, asking these questions this way, would be able to help them get better at the storytelling part of their brands. Thanks a lot, Priya, for your thoughts on this. Moving ahead, Priya, over the last decade, there has been a lot of technology changes, as well as the changes in the way users engage with the brand. And not only with the brand, but also how do they, kind of purchase and engage with the product itself. What are the few trends, what you're looking forward to, or you're looking which will either change the way digital marketers work or they tell their story, or significantly impact the way they go about their storytelling right now?
I mean, listen, I'm learning just like everybody else in terms of what's happening with predictive analytics and generative AI. And I think what I'm seeing and what I'm sensing is that, number one, Gen AI, I really think 2024, 2025, that this is the year that all of the Google search, the classic SEO, SEM, is going to start to be truly disrupted, by Gen AI. I'm already seeing it happening. Where, I have the Gen AI bar. I'm not looking at the paid search, answers anymore. So I think that's going to have a huge impact on marketers, and the ones that have been doing the content marketing, building their presence, and creating the back pages and the backlinks and all of that, they're the ones that are going to have a better chance versus the ones who've just been sort of paying to play, and that's been their only approach. So that's going to have a huge impact on the way people find your brand, for sure. And then just the whole explosion of, generated content through writing tools, image creation tools. I'm sure video creation isn't far behind. Maybe I've missed, there's probably some ones already out there, but that is making a marketer's job in many ways so much easier. You can just use that to write copy, test ideas, brainstorm. I don't know if it's going to replace marketers overnight, but I think that it's definitely going to enable marketers to do their work faster and with fewer people. A lot of that really laborious part of the job, writing copy for email and writing copy for things like that is going to move away. And then the last thing that I'm seeing is just the whole notion of conversational AI, chatbots, conversational email, these kinds of technologies that are out there. They're going to make customer service, customer experience so much better. And so, yeah, I'm really looking forward to continuing to see that journey go. But like everybody else, I'm following the trends and learning as I'm going. But I really do think 2024 is going to be the year that Gen AI really changes a lot about the way we do search today. Like I feel it.
I understand, and couldn't agree more. I believe for all of us, the behaviors have already started shifting, and I believe would would continue to shift. Thanks. I couldn't agree more, to be frank. And it has been nothing but a very, very enlightening episode for me as well as our listeners. I would like to extend our gratitude to you for sharing your invaluable insights and expertise. The way you have put together the data storytelling and growth, especially in space of digital marketing, it's really, really unique, and it really the whole exercise, the whole podcast really enriched our understanding of how to go about it. A hearty thanks to you for sharing your experiences with us.
Happy to do so, Anand. I actually had a blast doing this. So feel free to, if you listeners have any ideas for Anand or are interested in Quantacus, definitely check their stuff out. And it's always fun to talk product marketing and brand building. So happy to be here today.
Thanks, Priya. Listeners, we hope you have gained actionable knowledge that you can apply to your digital marketing strategies after this podcast with Priya. Remember, the data-driven storytelling is immense. The power of data-driven storytelling is immense, and it can truly transform the way you connect with your audience. If you found this episode informative and engaging, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Your feedback is essential to us in shaping our future content. Thank you for joining us today, and stay tuned for more exciting episodes of MetricMinds. Until next time, thanks, Priya. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.